Ambassador. Respected Ambassador, members of the Indian community, seniors, colleagues, dear friends, a very warm welcome to all of you on this occasion of celebration of Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. It is a day to commend and celebrate the remarkable contribution of overseas Indians to the growth and development of India. To begin today's program, I would first invite respected Ambassador, His Excellency H.E.Sujan R. Chinoy, to kindly deliver the opening remarks.
A very good evening to all of you, konbanwa, to those of you that are already very much part of Japanese society and speak Japanese. Members of the Indian community, colleagues, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all this evening to the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas celebration at the embassy. I would like to wish you all a very happy new year as we usher in the year of the rooster. As you are aware, today is also in Japan a very auspicious day. It's Seijin no Hi, which is traditionally considered to be the day on which people who attain the age of 20, they are entitled to vote. And in a sense, this suggests that they've attained maturity. And I would like to also draw parallel and say that the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, as far as India is concerned, has also acquired a certain maturity. As you know, the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas is celebrated in India every year on the 9th of January to connect India to its vast overseas diaspora, now numbering about 30 to 32 million people scattered all across the globe. And this day is particularly significant. In Japan, it is significant because it's Seijin no Hi. But for India, it has another historical significance, and that is the day 9 January on which Gandhiji in 1915, he returned to India from South Africa after having initially experimented with his thoughts and ideas in that landscape, and he brought that to India to forever alter the course of our history by initiating the freedom struggle upon his return. And so that was the context in which the 9th of January acquired unbelievable importance for all Indians. And Gandhiji, as you know, was the greatest Pravasi of all, for he had spent a fair bit of his youth in South Africa. Pravasi Bharatiya Divas conventions, as you know, have been held in India since 2003 in different cities, and this year we are celebrating as we speak. Today is the last day of the PBD event. This year it's being celebrated in the city of Bengaluru, and the theme is redefining engagement with the Indian diaspora. And I think this theme is also relevant in terms of what the new government in India has been trying to do since it came to power in 2014. For it is the current government that has made a great deal of effort to reach out and to build on the achievements of the past, to reach out to the vast diaspora and to increasingly make them a part of what we are trying to achieve in terms of mainstream activity, political, economic and social back home. So these conventions, as you would agree, provide a platform for the Indian diaspora to engage with and to learn about the Government of India's initiative, its policies and achievements in various sectors. And they also facilitate networking among the overseas Indian community residing in various parts of the world, and to enable them to share their experience in various fields. And this has become increasingly relevant for all of us, for we inhabit a globalized world, and no longer is it possible for us to develop our own developmental models without taking a cue from what is happening in other parts of the world, whether in developing countries or in developed countries. And so the Pravasi Bharatiya is the vector. He is the individual that really provides that connecting tissue between India and the external world. In the year 2015, you may already know, it was decided to change the format of the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, and instead of holding it every year, the convention is now being held once in 2 years. In the intervening year, smaller outcome-based conferences are now being organized. And in these conferences, overseas Indians who are domain experts were invited to go and participate in various panels and other speaking engagements, including from Japan. And during the Pravasi Bharatiya convention, individuals of exceptional merit are also honored with the prestigious Pravasi Bharatiya Samman Award in recognition of their contribution to India's growth and to India's relations with countries around the world. And I'm very pleased to inform all of you and to share with you the good news that of the very small number of individuals that are awarded this recognition, only 30 in all. This year we have one from Japan, and that is none other than the very eminent Professor Sandeep K. Tagore, Professor Emeritus of Otemon Gakuin University, now living in Takatsuki, sitting in Osaka, and he has been selected as the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman Awardee for 2017 from Japan. Richly deserved, in my view, for Professor Tagore is an eminent academic, scholar, musician, artist and cultural figure who has lived in Japan for 60 years. And many of you, the senior ones here, may actually know him personally. He is of advanced age now, and therefore not in a position to be as actively involved physically as he used to be involved in the past. But that happens to all of us. It's only a question of time. He is undoubtedly one of the oldest and most prominent Indians in Japan, and as a pioneer he has played a very important role in promoting literature and cultural exchanges between India and Japan. He started the oldest student exchange program between Otemon Gakuin University in Japan and Gujarat University in India, which has run uninterruptedly for 45 years. That's the only program that I know of students' exchange that has run without a break for the last 45 years. As Professor Tagore is unable to travel to Bengaluru to receive his award personally from the President of India, I shall have the great honor and privilege of bestowing the award on behalf of the President of India upon him on a suitable occasion in the near future. Our heartiest congratulations to Professor Tagore in Osaka. Now, as you all know, the Indian diaspora is spread around the world and has contributed to India's development in many significant ways. And as you all know, at the PBD there were various speakers who have spoken of the Indian credo and ethos that has been taken to various parts of the world by the Pravasi Bharatiya, by you all, as you have done in Japan. On the very first day, that is the 7th of November, it was a day dedicated to the youth Pravasi Bharatiya. And about 160 young people from different parts of the world were invited to speak and to participate in the events in Bangalore. On the 8th, yesterday, there was the keynote address of the Prime Minister of India, and there was also a panel in which the chief ministers of various states in India participated. This stands to reason because in a globalized world and increasingly in India, the states and the people residing in different parts of the country have emerged as stakeholders in what we are trying to achieve in terms of creating the necessary global environment, in terms of creating the necessary structures of engagement for India's economic advancement and the goals that we hope to achieve in the shortest possible time. And therefore that was of great importance and significance. Now Prime Minister, if I recall correctly from the speech that he made in Bengaluru, acknowledged the contributions of the Pravasi Bharatiya right from the time of the Girmityas, as you know, who went out from various parts of India as indentured labor to certain countries, notably Mauritius, Fiji, Seychelles, Guyana, Suriname. I should really add in the Caribbean countries like Jamaica. I might even add Belize in Central America. These are the places where you find the Girmityas who led the charge of the Light Brigade, so to speak, and despite being in these countries for over 200 years or about 4 or 5 generations, they have retained their Indianness. As is commonly said, you can take an Indian out of India, but you cannot take India out of an Indian. And I think Prime Minister referred to their significant contributions over the generations, or how they have been able to integrate themselves into the culture of the countries of their adoption, their karma bhumis, as Prime Minister put it, and yet retain this affinity for their, is it called marma bhumi, which is really like Matrubhumi, their land of origin. And that, I think, bespeaks the kind of deep-rooted values that they take out with them. Prime Minister also spoke of the fact that we today in India are proactive in terms of our engagement, as suggested by the theme of the conference itself, redefining engagement with the Indian diaspora. And you will all have noticed that in the last 2 years, there's been a greater proactivism on the part of the government to deal with the diaspora and to use them as a very significant resource. We have created, as you know, for instance, the Indian Community Welfare Fund, and over the last several years, about 80,000 people have been supported in 54 countries from the Indian Community Welfare Fund in accordance with the guidelines that exist. And it's very important to keep in mind that the welfare of the Indian community or the people of Indian origin that live abroad is uppermost in terms of significance for the government of India. Prime Minister has also spoken about the fact that when Indians go abroad, in the past there was reference to this as the brain drain. And today, through this newfound engagement with people like you in Japan, with others in significantly higher numbers in the United States and elsewhere, the whole idea is to transform this into a brain gain. And in a globalized world, this is true because people do not live overseas as the Girmityas did for generations or forever. Today, it's a much more fluid situation. And you are of the type that would spend a certain amount of your time in the country of adoption and then perhaps go back to India, whether as a professional or as a businessman, to look at opportunities that are emerging in the new India. So it is, in a sense, a brain gain as well, for you take back with you your rich experience of having lived abroad, of having seen how the world works, and all the values that we're trying to bring back into the developmental narrative in India. I think Prime Minister also referred to the fact that we would like to see our people going out as great assets with much greater confidence. And so they go out today not only as very well qualified experts, trained and skilled in the profession that they represent, but that they also go out with much greater self-confidence, for they represent, in a sense, a country that is itself on the rise, a country that is now growing as a very major force in the economic landscape, globally speaking, and one that is expected to attain the highest rungs of economic development over the next 20-30 years. So it's a good time for us to represent India. And I should say that the Indian diaspora in Japan has earned for itself a very good name and respect through its positive contribution in various fields. Traditionally, Indians in Japan were involved in fields such as textiles, commodities and electronics. However, in recent years we've seen the arrival of a much larger number of professionals, including IT professionals and engineers working for Indian and Japanese firms, as well as technocrats, executives, scientists, covering fields such as management, finance, education, scientific and technological research. And all this, frankly speaking, is a reflection of India's growing global presence and the fact that we are a significant force today in terms of our global standing. I wish to take this opportunity to commend your efforts in promoting India's image, its trade and business interests, and our ancient cultural values that are still of great and abiding significance in Japan. You are sharing these with the Japanese people. You therefore are as much ambassadors as any one of us working for government. In your own way, you are a vector that has much greater freedom in terms of your interaction, for you're unfettered. You have greater reach oftentimes than I have within the Japanese community, within opinion makers, and therefore I call upon each one of you to exert yourself to lend a hand, to lend your heft to this great task that we have of promoting India's interests overseas, including in Japan. The visit of the Prime Minister to Japan in November was a very successful sojourn. He came with great expectations and I think went back with satisfaction. His visit has provided fresh impetus to the special strategic and global partnership between India and Japan. And I would therefore also urge all of you, each one of you, in your own way to build on this momentum that has been created in the wake of the Prime Minister's visit by exploring new opportunities to expand your activities in Japan. This evening's Pravasi Bharatiya Divas celebration, though modest in scope and scale as compared to what's going on in Bangalore, is nevertheless intended as a tribute to each one of you, as a recognition of your contributions and achievements. And we would, in the tradition of this government, we would like to make it interactive down the line. And I do hope that more people from Japan will participate in future PBD events in India. I do hope many more can participate. You can look for ways to combine your visits to India around the time of the PBD, and then to, without extra cost, participate in some of the events. That would be a great contribution on your part. I personally, as ambassador here with my esteemed colleagues, many of whom are in attendance here, stand at your service. We look forward to continue to engage you and the Indian community based in Japan. We will do this with the same gusto with which the Prime Minister is doing his engagement, or for that matter, Mrs. Sushma Swaraj, our esteemed External Affairs Minister, is doing at her level. She was personally cited by the Prime Minister in his remarks for being exceptionally proactive in terms of engaging the diaspora. I mean, it's not just her, tweets and things like that. At the very heart of it is an attitude. It's an approach to things which really indicates the kind of open door that she has You are also aware that in the last couple of years, the government of India has very successfully come to the rescue of about 90,000 people from all over the world, notably from crisis-affected areas such as Yemen, Libya, Iraq, and so on and so forth. Large numbers have been evacuated with the help of the government of India. And we, Japan, also stand ready to help as we have done most recently in the case of a very unfortunate death case. My officers and I will remain accessible to each one of you as we have been all along, and to work for your welfare and for your needs, and your valuable ideas and suggestions during the Q&A session that will follow some of the presentations to be made by my colleagues. These will be invaluable. We will greatly welcome each one of you to say something, not just to ask a question and receive a wooden answer from bureaucrats like us, but also to make some useful suggestions that we will take note of. Not all of your concerns, even healthy criticism, will be possible for us to resolve at the stroke of a pen here. But let me assure you that we will take note of it, we will mull over it, we will put it into our system as things that need to be considered further. So let us continue to have a samvad between us and to continue to strengthen this samvad between the embassy and the Indian community in Japan. I thank each one of you for your valuable time this evening. Arigatou gozaimasu.